Every man carries a fire inside him, not a weak fire, not a decorative flame, a primal force. Sexual energy is not just desire, it is life force. It is the same power that pushes a man to build, protect, create, conquer, and rise above comfort. But fire must be governed. When a man cannot control his desire begins to control his mind. His focus weakens, his presence fades, his eyes lose their sharpness. He starts moving through life without command, reacting to every impulse, every image, every craving, every cheap hit of pleasure. Semen retention is not a trend. It is not a game of counting days. It is a spiritual discipline. It is the act of refusing to let the lowest part of you rule the highest part of you. A man is not powerful because he has desire. He becomes powerful when desire can no longer enslave him. And this is where most men begin to lose themselves. Not in one dramatic fall, but through 1,000 small leaks. A screen opened without purpose. An image saved in the mind. A fantasy entertained in silence. A quick pleasure chosen over a higher command. Energy does not always leave the body through action. Sometimes it leaves through attention. Wherever your attention goes, your life force follows. If a man keeps feeding his nervous system with cheap stimulation, he trains himself to need reward without sacrifice, pleasure without patience, release without responsibility. Over time, something in him becomes dull. His focus breaks faster. His patience gets thinner. His will becomes softer. His mind grows noisy. He loses the ability to sit alone with his own power, so he reaches for distraction again, and again, and again. This is the leak. Not only the loss of semen, but the loss of direction. The man becomes like a cracked vessel, trying to fill himself while his energy drains from every hidden fracture. He may still look alive on the outside, but inside, his fire is scattered. When energy leaks long enough, a man does not only lose strength, he loses command, he loses clarity, he loses the sharp edge that tells him where to go, what to build, and who he must become. This is why retention cannot be reduced to simply not releasing. A man can keep his seed and still be a prisoner in his mind. He can avoid the physical act, yet still live inside fantasy, craving, obsession, and hunger. That is not mastery. That is pressure wearing the mask of discipline. True retention is deeper. It means the desire rises, but it does not give the order. It means the body speaks, but the soul remains on the throne. It means a man stops letting every impulse become a command. When he begins to hold his energy, he becomes a closed circuit. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is thrown away for a few seconds of pleasure. The current that used to flow outward begins to turn inward. It feeds his focus. It strengthens his presence. It gives weight to his silence and steadiness to his eyes. A closed circuit builds power because the energy has nowhere cheap to escape. It has to refine him. It has to press against his weakness. It has to expose the parts of him that were dependent on release. And slowly, he understands. Retention is not about denial. It is about ownership. The energy he once gave away now begins to build the man from within. And the energy he holds is not meant to sit still. Desire is raw fire. It has no morality by itself. Fire can warm a house, or it can burn the house down. It depends on the man who carries it. A weak man tries to escape the fire. He runs toward release, distraction, stimulation, anything that can lower the pressure for a moment. But the pressure always returns, because the lesson was never learned. The fire was not mastered. It was only spilled. A strong man does something different. He does not hate his desire. He does not pretend it is gone. He stands before it and gives it direction. The same force that once pulled him into screens, fantasies, and empty pleasure becomes fuel for training, deep work, discipline, creation, ambition, and purpose. This is the sacred conversion. Lust becomes movement. Pressure becomes focus. Urge becomes will. The lower fire is lifted into a higher mission. There is a difference between suppression and transmutation. Suppression pushes desire into the dark and lets it rot there. Transmutation looks desire in the eye, holds it without fear, and commands it to serve something greater. A man must understand this clearly. Retention is not about becoming numb. It is about becoming dangerous to your old self. The fire that once weakened you can become the forge that shapes you, but only when you stop worshipping the flame and start using it to build the man you were born to become. But the fire will test you. In the beginning, a man may feel clear, strong, almost untouched. He feels distance from his old habits. He feels control returning. But that is only the first gate. Then the old world comes back. The memories return. The images return. The body remembers the easy path. The mind begins to negotiate. It tells him one time will not matter. It tells him he deserves relief. It tells him the pressure is too much. The urge is too strong. The battle is already lost. This is the moment where a man discovers whether he is practicing discipline or only enjoying a temporary mood. Real willpower is not proven when the road is clean. It is proven when the old door opens again and calls your name. It is proven when the nervous system demands the familiar reward, but the man inside refuses to kneel. Every urge is not an enemy. It is a test of command. Each time he stands still, breathes, observes, and does not obey, he sends a new order into his body. I am not a slave anymore. Slowly, the system learns. Pleasure is no longer the master. Impulse is no longer the law. The man begins to find reward in progress, in restraint, in deep work, in the quiet victory no one sees. Will is not born in comfort. It is forged when a man wants to fall, but remains standing. And this quiet victory begins to rewire him. A man who has lived on fast pleasure becomes uncomfortable with slowness. He cannot focus because his mind has been trained to run. He cannot sit still because silence exposes him. He cannot chase a long mission because his nervous system keeps begging for a short reward. Retention forces him to face that restlessness. Instead of escaping into release, he stays with himself. He feels the pressure rise. He feels the urge move through the body. He watches it without becoming it. And in that space, something powerful is born. The urge is no longer a command. It is only a wave. It comes, it rises, it passes. This is where inner authority begins. Between the impulse and the action, there is a gap. Most men never enter that gap. They react before they remember who they are. But the disciplined man learns to live there. He breathes there. He chooses there. A man who masters himself is not a man without desire. He is a man whose desire no longer holds the crown. And when desire no longer holds the crown, the energy begins to rise. It no longer moves only downward into instinct. It no longer moves outward into distraction. It begins to move inward and upward, into awareness, intuition, calm, and presence. This is the spiritual physics of retention. Energy does not disappear. It changes direction. When it is dragged downward, it searches for pleasure. When it is scattered outward, it searches for noise. But when it is held, purified, and guided by will, it becomes a higher kind of power. The man starts to feel himself more clearly. His mind becomes less crowded. His body becomes more grounded. His silence becomes less empty and more alive. He no longer needs constant stimulation to feel real. He no longer needs attention to feel valuable. He no longer needs desire to prove that he is alive. Something in him becomes still, and in that stillness, he begins to see what used to control him. He sees the lust. He sees the loneliness. He sees the insecurity. He sees the hunger for validation. But now, he does not obey it blindly. He observes it. And what a man can observe, he can begin to command. This is where instinct becomes awareness. Pressure becomes intuition. Restraint becomes inner authority. The energy that once pulled him into lower habits now lifts him into a sharper state of being. When a man stops being ruled by his lower nature, he does not become less alive. He becomes more awake. And that awakened state changes the way a man carries himself. Real attraction does not come from performance. It does not come from chasing attention, speaking louder, or trying to prove value to every eye in the room. Real attraction comes from possession of self. A man ruled by lust has unstable energy. He reaches. He reacts. He needs a response. He needs a signal. He needs the world to tell him he is enough. And because he needs it, people can feel the hunger beneath his words. But a man who holds his energy becomes different. He is not desperate to be seen. He does not rush to impress. He does not spill himself into every opportunity for validation. His presence becomes heavier. His movements become calmer. His words become fewer, but stronger. This is not manipulation. This is not a trick. It is the natural gravity of self-control. The less a man is controlled by pleasure, the more power he carries in his presence. And the path ends where true manhood begins, self-command. The goal is not to become cold. It is not to hate the body, reject desire, or pretend the fire is gone. The goal is order. The desire remains. The fire remains. The instinct remains. But it no longer sits on the throne. A man who lives from mastery does not release energy just because the body demands it. He does not run to a screen because the mind feels empty. He does not chase pleasure to escape pain. He stands still. He observes. He chooses. Then he acts. That is power. Not noise. Not performance. Not fantasy. Power is the ability to govern yourself when no one is watching. When a man masters the current of his life force, he does not only preserve energy, he reclaims the kingdom within himself. And the path ends where true manhood begins, self-command. The goal is not to become cold. It is not to hate the body, reject desire, or pretend the fire is gone. The goal is order. The desire remains. The fire remains. The instinct remains. But it no longer sits on the throne. A man who lives from mastery does not release energy just because the body demands it. He does not run to a screen because the mind feels empty. He does not chase pleasure to escape pain. He stands still. He observes. He chooses. Then he acts. That is power. Not noise. Not performance. Not fantasy. Power is the ability to govern yourself when no one is watching. When a man masters the current of his life force, he does not only preserve energy, he reclaims the kingdom within himself.